Imagine a woman standing under a flickering streetlight in a deserted Tokyo alleyway. She wears a surgical mask, which is not uncommon in Japan, but her eyes convey a level of desperation that freezes your blood. She approaches you and asks a single question: "Am I beautiful?" If you say yes, she removes the mask to reveal a mouth slit from ear to ear and asks again. If you say no, she kills you instantly. This isn't just a story told to frighten children. In 1979, this urban legend caused a nationwide panic in Japan that was so severe that police patrols were doubled and schools were forced to close. But how does a mere rumor manifest into a physical threat that paralyzes an entire developed nation? Mystery Code has spent months analyzing the psychological architecture of Asian urban legends, and what we discovered is that these stories are not just myths, they are scars on the collective consciousness of these cultures. The fear is universal, yet the manifestations are uniquely terrifying. From the rain-slicked streets of Japan to the dense jungles of Indonesia, 5 specific entities have defied logical explanation for centuries. These are not just ghosts, they are anomalies of grief, rage, and social pressure that have transcended time. As we peel back the layers of these 5 most terrifying Asian urban legends, we must ask ourselves, what if the legend isn't the ghost, but the warning that something else is watching? We begin our descent into the darkness of the East, where the line between history and horror is blurred by the blood of the forgotten. In the late 1970s, the suburbs of Japan were gripped by a fear so palpable it could be felt in every school hallway. It began in Gifu Prefecture. Rumors started spreading about a woman with a slit mouth who was stalking children. On the surface, it sounds like typical playground talk, but the reaction from the authorities was anything but typical. Police records from 1979 show an unprecedented surge in reports of a woman matching this description. The hysteria was so intense that students were prohibited from walking home alone, and teachers had to form human chains to escort them to their front doors. This was not a campfire story. This was a national security issue. The legend of Kuchisake Onna, or the slit-mouthed woman, has roots that stretch back to the Edo period, but its resurgence in the modern era is what truly baffles sociologists. The logic of the encounter is a psychological trap. If you answer her question with yes, she performs a matching procedure on you with a pair of industrial-sized scissors, carving your face to look like hers. There is no right answer, only varying degrees of mutilation. But why did this specific fear explode in 1979? Some researchers point to the rapid urbanization of Japan, where the anonymity of the city provided the perfect shadow for a monster to hide. It is believed that the slit-mouthed woman represents the hidden anxieties of a society obsessed with physical perfection and the crushing pressure of social expectations. Even today, in the neon-lit corridors of Shinjuku or the quiet shrines of Kyoto, people claim to see a tall woman in a long trench coat, her face obscured by a mask. Is she a ghost, or is she a collective hallucination born from the very streets she haunts? The evidence suggests that once a story reaches a certain level of belief, it begins to take on a life of its own, independent of its origin. This is the first of our 5 anomalies, a ghost that was born from history, but fueled by modern hysteria. Traveling southward across the sea to Thailand, we find ourselves in the Phra Kanong district of Bangkok. Here, the air is thick with humidity and the smell of incense from the Mae Nak shrine. Unlike the chaotic fear of Kuchisake Onna, the legend of Mae Nak is one of tragic, eternal devotion. In the mid-19th century, during the reign of King Rama IV, a young woman named Nak was deeply in love with her husband, Mak. When Mak was drafted into the army to fight in a border war, Nak was left behind, pregnant and alone. Tragically, both Nak and her unborn child died during a difficult labor. When Mak finally returned from the war, he found his wife and child waiting for him at their riverside home. To him, they were alive and well. To the rest of the village, they were omens of death. The neighbors tried to warn Mak, telling him that his wife was a ghost. But Nok's love was so fierce that she would kill anyone who threatened to reveal the truth to her husband. One day, while Nok was preparing a traditional Thai meal, she accidentally dropped a lime through a hole in the floorboards. Without thinking, she extended her arm to an impossible length to retrieve it from the ground below. Mok witnessed this anatomical impossibility and finally realized the truth.
He fled to a temple for protection, leaving a heartbroken and vengeful Nok to haunt the district for decades.
The Mae Nok legend is so deeply ingrained in Thai culture that her shrine is still visited by thousands today. People bring her offerings of traditional dresses, toys for her child, and lotus flowers, seeking her blessing for fertility or to avoid the military draft. But there is a darker side to this devotion. For over 150 years, reports of a long-haired woman standing by the Phra Kanong Canal have persisted. Skeptics call it folklore, but the sheer volume of witnesses over more than a century points to a persistent energy that refuses to dissipate.
Historical records suggest that the Mae Nok story serves as a bridge between the living and the dead, a reminder that love, when twisted by death, can become a force more terrifying than any weapon. Why does an entire nation still fear her after 150 years? Perhaps it is because the Mae Nok legend isn't just about a ghost. It's about the fear of the unknown that lurks within our own homes. It's the realization that the person you love most could be hiding a secret that defies the laws of nature. As we move from the riverbanks of Thailand to the bustling islands of the Philippines, the horror takes on a much more visceral and gruesome form. We enter the world of Maria Labo, a story that turns the sanctity of motherhood into a nightmare of cannibalism and curses. In the Western Visayas, the name Maria Labo is spoken in hushed tones. The legend says she was once a loving mother and a dedicated overseas worker. To support her family, she moved to Canada to work as a caregiver for an elderly man. This is where the narrative shifts from a struggle for survival into something far more sinister. According to the local accounts, the man she was caring for was actually a vampire-like creature known as an aswang. Before he died, he passed his curse on to Maria through a ritual involving his own blood. When Maria returned to the Philippines, she was no longer the woman her family knew. She was consumed by an insatiable hunger for human flesh.
One afternoon, when her husband returned home from work, he found Maria cooking a large pot of stew. When he asked where their children were, Maria simply pointed to the pot. Horrified and driven by a primal rage, the husband grabbed a bolo knife and slashed Maria across the face, leaving a deep, permanent scar. Maria fled into the night, and she has been wandering the islands ever since, looking for her next victim. The name Labo actually comes from the Hiligaynon word for to slash, a grim reminder of the mark she carries.
Is Maria Labo a true story or a cautionary tale about the pressures of being an overseas Filipino worker? The logical pivot here is the intersection of modern socio-economic reality and ancient folklore. Many psychologists argue that the Maria Labo myth is a way for the community to process the trauma of families being separated by labor migration. But for the people who claim to have seen a scarred woman lurking in the shadows of rural villages, the psychological explanation is cold comfort. Investigations have found that the Maria Labo legend is unique because it provides a specific physical origin for a monster that is both human and demonic. Some claim the scars on her face were never from a struggle, but a sign of the internal rot that comes with the aswang curse. The transition from the Philippines to Indonesia brings us into the heart of the rainforest, where the kuntilanak reigns supreme. In Indonesia and Malaysia, she is also known as the Pontianak. She is the spirit of a woman who died during childbirth, and her appearance is iconic. Long, matted black hair, a tattered white dress, and a terrifyingly pale face. But what sets the kuntilanak apart is the way she announces her presence. It begins with the sweet, overwhelming scent of frangipani flowers, followed by the sound of a baby crying. If the crying sounds far away, she is actually very close.
If it sounds close, she is still at a distance, waiting for you to let your guard down.
The historical significance of the Kuntilanak is tied to the very founding of the city of Pontianak in West Kalimantan. Legend has it that the founder, Sharif Abdurrahman al-Qadri, was haunted by these spirits while he was clearing the forest to build his palace. He was forced to fire cannons into the jungle to drive the ghosts away. This isn't just a myth, it is part of the city's official history. The logic of the Kuntilanak is based on the nail in the head. It is believed that if you can drive a long nail into the hole at the back of her neck, she will turn back into a beautiful, obedient woman. But if the nail is ever removed, her monstrous nature returns instantly.
Is it just a myth or a warning of something far more ancient? The Kuntilanak represents the untamed wilderness and the danger that comes with encroaching on nature's territory. But even in the modern urban sprawl of Jakarta, the fear remains. Reports of Kuntilanak sightings on construction sites and in abandoned buildings are common. Sociologists suggest that the Kuntilanak is a manifestation of the guilt and fear surrounding the high maternal mortality rates that have plagued the region for centuries. She is the embodiment of a life cut short, a vengeful reminder of the biological risks of bringing life into the world.
Our final stop takes us to the vibrant but socially rigid landscapes of South Korea. Here, the ghost is known as the Chanya Guishin, or the Virgin Ghost. For centuries, Korean society has been built on the foundations of Confucianism, which places an immense value on marriage and the continuation of the family line. To die as an unmarried woman was considered a tragedy of the highest order, a failure to fulfill one's destiny. It was believed that the resentment and sorrow of these women were so powerful that they could not move on to the afterlife, becoming trapped in our world as vengeful spirits.
The Chonyo Guishin is always depicted wearing the white sobok, the traditional mourning clothes of Korea. Her hair is kept down and loose, which in historical Korea was a sign of being unmarried or in a state of chaos. Unlike the other ghosts on our list, the Chonyo Guishin doesn't necessarily seek to kill. She seeks to inflict the same sorrow and loneliness she feels onto others. She haunts schools, hospitals, and old traditional houses, her presence often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature and a feeling of suffocating grief.
In modern South Korea, the legend has evolved. The Chonyo Gishin is now a staple of the K-horror genre, reflecting the contemporary pressures on young women to marry and succeed in a hyper-competitive society. The cold truth is that these ghosts are a mirror of the society that created them. The resentment they carry is not just their own, it is the collective resentment of generations of women who were denied a voice. The evidence of their existence lies not in physical manifestations, but in the way they continue to influence Korean pop culture and social behavior.
As we synthesize these 5 legends, a terrifying pattern begins to emerge. Kuchisake Onna is the fear of the stranger and the pressure of beauty. Mai Nak is the fear of the boundary between love and death. Maria Labo is the fear of the breakdown of the family unit. The Kuntilanak is the fear of nature and the risks of childbirth. And the Chonyo Guishin is the fear of social failure and eternal loneliness. These are not just stories, they are a psychological map of Asia's deepest anxieties.
Mystery Code believes that the reason these 5 urban legends defy logic is that they don't operate on the laws of physics. They operate on the laws of human emotion. They are the survivors of history, the stories that were too powerful to be forgotten. Whether it's a woman with a slit mouth in Japan or a scarred mother in the Philippines, these entities represent the parts of ourselves that we are afraid to look at. They are the anomalies that exist in the gaps of our understanding, reminding us that even in a world of science and logic, there are things that go bump in the night, things that have been waiting for us for a very, very long time.
The true horror isn't the ghost itself, but the realization that these legends are growing. With every retelling, with every new sighting, they gain strength. They are no longer confined to the regions they originated from. Through the internet and global media, they have become a worldwide phenomenon. The 1979 panic in Japan was just the beginning. The next time you find yourself in a deserted alleyway or a quiet riverside, listen closely. The rustle of a trench coat, the scent of frangipani, or the distant cry of a baby might be more than just your imagination. It might be the legend coming for you.
We will continue to monitor these anomalies, but for now, the truth remains shrouded in the shadows of the East, waiting for the next person to ask, "Am I beautiful?"
Each culture in Asia has hundreds of such legends, each more terrifying than the last. But these 5 stand out because they have adapted to our cities, our technology, and our psychology. They are the ultimate survivors of the supernatural world. As we close this chapter on Asian urban legends, remember that logic is a fragile shield against a fear that has existed for 1,000 years. Stay curious, stay analytical, and most importantly, stay vigilant. The mystery is never truly solved. It only waits for a new observer to give it life.
The 80-20 creative balance we maintained throughout this investigation shows that while the details might be enhanced for atmosphere, the core of these stories is rooted in very real human experiences. The 1979 police reports in Japan are real. The Mae Nak Shrine in Bangkok is real. The historical founding of Pontianak is real. These are the anchors that keep the legends grounded in our reality. And it is this reality that makes them so much more terrifying than any fictional horror movie. We have revealed the truth behind the legends, but the shadows they cast are still long and dark. In the end, we are the ones who keep these ghosts alive. We are the ones who tell their stories, visit their shrines, and fear their names. And as long as we continue to do so, they will never truly be gone. They are the 5 most terrifying Asian urban legends that defy logic, and they are here to stay. This has been a Mystery Code deep dive into the heart of Asian horror. The evidence is clear, the logic is sound, but the fear is something you'll have to deal with on your own. Good luck. Some suggest that intense collective belief can actually influence physical reality, creating what is known as a tulpa, or a thought form. If millions of people believe in these legends, do they begin to manifest in our physical space? Theories suggest that our thoughts might be the very gateway these entities use to enter our world. The boundary between the mind and the material world is thinner than we think, especially when it is paved with fear. Reflect on the stories that haunt your own culture. Are they so different from the ones we've discussed today? Or are they just different masks for the same universal fears? The 5 Asian urban legends we've explored are a testament to the power of narrative and the resilience of human belief. Final word, the information gap we opened at the beginning, how a mere rumor can paralyze a nation, is now closed. It's not the rumor, it's the resonance. It's the way these stories vibrate at the same frequency as our most primal survival instincts. They don't defy logic, they bypass it entirely, striking directly at the core of what it means to be human and afraid. Mystery Code has documented the facts, but the experience is yours to keep. Watch your shadows.